talk to us, and he's been here many times before, and I'm just so thankful that he's here again tonight. Those of us who have been to him have gotten relief from what he does for us, and we always learn so much when he's here. So I'm not going to take up any of his time. I'll let him describe what he does to you. Anything that I would try to say that describes it would not even give it merit. So Dr. Chase, come on up.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Chase Hayden. Grateful for Barbara for inviting me to come out to speak again today. We've had a lot of fun here over the last about 6 years now. I've been here a couple of times, a lot more than a couple of times actually. So in the last 6 years, I've been here a lot of times to talk about different aspects of health and what you guys can do on your own to improve your health, and where people like Barbara and myself can come in to possibly help you out if you need it. Today, we mostly want to focus on pain and pain relief, on how we experience pain, why we have it, and more importantly, what you can do to overcome it and not have pain anymore. This is supposed to be as informal as possible, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to just ask or talk or shout out from the back row. Yes, sir?
Can we take off our shoes then?
You do whatever you need to do. I think we're all good to go at this point. So yeah, just have fun with it. This is a no-stress environment. So yeah, let's make it happen. To begin with, we will be recording this. I'll be recording this, actually. So afterward, if you want to see it, I'll post it to YouTube or someplace. You guys can watch it as many times as you want. What that means, if you're going to come up and be part of my guinea pig examples, you kind of have to say it's okay for me to record you, because otherwise you can't be up here in front of everybody. But as of right now, I'm the only one that can be seen on the video. But later, as we're going through and doing a guinea pig, asking for volunteers and having guinea pigs, we'll bring people up and see what we can do about it. So, pain. How many of you have ever experienced pain in your life? Right, like all of us, every time, all the time. Some of us every day, and that's fine. Pain is a good motivator for action. If you don't feel pain, you're probably going to keep doing whatever you're doing. If you feel pain, you're probably more likely to start changing some things, whether it's go to the doctor, or stop what you were doing that created the pain, or try and protect yourself a little bit more. Pain is a very good indicator to tell you to stop doing what you're doing and try to change it, or try to get a hold on things. I like to look at pain like a check engine light in your car. Just because you're driving down the road and that little low fuel light pops on doesn't mean impending doom immediately. It just means, hey, do something about it. And you can go another 30, 40, 50 miles or so before there's real problems. But your body gives you a warning sign, just like your car gives you a warning sign in certain situations. And pain can be part of that. Pain isn't the whole story, of course, but it's part of the issue. So when it comes to pain, pain is a natural response that protects us. If I dislocated my arm throwing a baseball and it hurts and the movement goes away and the motion stops, my body's going to try really hard to prevent me from throwing another baseball until it's ready. And so if I go to pick it up and move it, I'll get the sharp, stabbing, aching pain that tells me, please don't do that again, right? We've all experienced that before. You stub your toe on the kitchen counter as you're walking by, your body tells you, hey, guess what? Watch what you're doing next time, because this really hurts, and you hobble and you say some choice words and you go on with life, right? But then hopefully the pain goes down. A couple of days later, you're perfectly fine again, because your body has warned you of the problem. It's made you compensate for how you're walking around or how you're moving, and then all of a sudden the pain's gone and you can go on with life. Sometimes, though, pain doesn't go away. There are chronic pain situations that it's estimated that 50 to 75 million people in America experience chronic pain. It's like everybody. Everybody has chronic pain at some point in their life. So what can we do as individuals to either not have chronic pain anymore, or overcome the chronic pain that we have and stop having these inflammatory mechanisms in our body? Well, that's what tonight is all about. It's trying to figure out what can we do, and how can we first identify the problem, second, how can we overcome it, and third, how can we make sure it never comes back again. So pain doesn't always have the same origin or the same cause that creates it. Shoulder pain is a great example of that. I talked before about arm dislocation from throwing something. If I stress out the joint from a structural standpoint, whether throwing inappropriately or lifting weights that are too heavy for me or something like that, I can create a structural injury and therefore feel pain in my shoulder. But if I have a liver or gallbladder problem, where I wake up at night to go to the restroom between the hours of like 1 and 3 in the morning, or fatty foods don't work very well for me and they give me acid reflux, heartburn, and indigestion, or I get headaches behind my eyes, over my ears, and over my shoulders, or back of my skull like this, and I experience shoulder pain, that's a completely different scenario. Because in one situation we have an organic problem, a visceral problem referring pain to the area. In the other situation we've got an injury caused by something that I did. If we were in a car wreck, it would be something similar. Large machine punching into another machine can lead to pain, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a gallbladder problem that's causing that pain. So we all, of course, want to get to the root of what's the true cause of pain. Because if we can find the cause and we can change the cause, then there's a good chance we can change the symptom that results from that cause. But how do we do it? It's hard sometimes to be your own doctor, even though the Bible says, physician heal thyself, right? So if we're going to be our own doctor and try and figure out what's going on, I like to use assessment forms or questionnaires to get to the bottom of what might be going on. For those of you that are bored later tonight or this week and want to do a bunch of questionnaires, on my website, my new patient paperwork is about 10 pages long, and 4 of those pages are questionnaires from top to bottom. Just tell you, how are you feeling in this area of your life, and how are you in this area of life, and this area. It's free download. Go check it out. See how you rate in your own life. After about 350 questions of how you're doing symptomatically, you'll get a decent understanding as to what things work well in your life and which ones don't. Some of those will be pain related, but some of them will not. But as I'm working as a doctor-patient with people, I try and look at those symptoms and see what's going on and what can I do as an intervention to change them structurally, neurologically, nutritionally. From a professional standpoint, I'm a doctor of chiropractic in the state of Texas. And I have additional certifications through functional neurology and applied clinical nutrition. So I'm always looking to see what's causing people's symptoms, whether it's pain or weight or hormonal imbalance or whatever, from a structural, neurological, and nutritional standpoint. And if I can identify that problem, we can go further and progress to getting someone where they want to be. If I can't figure out that problem, either because I'm not smart enough or because my scope of practice doesn't allow me, we try and get them to somebody else that can help them out. So questionnaires are a great starting point that all of us can do starting today. Because if we start and just take a self-evaluation and we're moral and honest in our decision, we're like, okay, I'm really going to answer these like I think I really feel and not try and sweep everything under the rug like the guys do. Because when the guys come in because they're being drugged in by their wives, they get zeros all the way up and down everything, and then their wife's handwriting on the symptom section tells me everything's going on with them. But for the women, sometimes we get all the symptoms, and then we go through and we see all the additional questionnaires, and there's a whole other insight that comes into play because you start reevaluating things that you didn't even know were problematic for you that now shed more light as to what's going on with you. So questionnaires are the best way for me to start from a doctor trying to figure out what's going on with individuals. Since I didn't have questionnaires for all of you today, we're going to do some other stuff from an exam standpoint to try and figure out what might be creating pain in your lives and then what we might could do to try and change that. Not necessarily me as in, we as in the collective whole, whether it's dietary influences that create increased pain, neurologic activities that you can do to increase activity and function, therefore decreasing pain, or potential supplements or herbs that you could take to decrease pain as well. Because we all seen Dr. Oz talk about one thing that everybody should take if they have pain, or this one exercise that's the magic bullet to get rid of pain, and then we go out and try it and it doesn't work for us and we throw everything in the trash can and say, oh, well, I'm just not that good. Well, that's not the case. We want you to be able to get the result that you can based off of your specific symptoms. And even though we don't have a full medical history and lab tests and everything on everyone in this room, we should be able to get down to some of the nuts and bolts of what makes some of you tick today as I put you up on the table and poke and prod some. And it'll give me more insight as to what's going on with you, and I can tell you more about what you might do to benefit from that. So pain is an indicator. It tells us when there's a potential problem, and then it helps us to overcome that problem faster. And there are ways that we can address this. We can change how we eat, because eating things 3 to 6 times a day that cause more inflammation in your life are going to cause pain to be more prevalent inside of you as well. How many of you know if you have a food sensitivity or a certain food that causes problems in your life, even if it's non-pain related? Okay. Anybody want to share what theirs is? Confession time? Caffeine. So what does caffeine do to you?
It makes me have chest pain.
Okay. So when you drink coffee or Coke or something like that, you get like a crushing?
Not immediately, but like throughout the day. Like if anybody annoys me or whatever.
So you never go talk to your husband during caffeine break?
But I just stopped it completely and it went away.
Okay.
And I had to have a lot of, yeah.
So caffeine for you though, you've felt in your own life that when you consume caffeine, chest-like pains happen to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any others? Yes, ma'am.
Wheat.
Wheat.
Gave me muscle and joint aches.
Muscle and joint aches when you eat wheat. Cool. Do other grains like wheat also do it, or just wheat?
I stopped the wheat and the pain went away, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Cool. Wheat has
I
a bunch
haven't
of
had
neat
to come
things.
back, so.
Yeah, wheat has a bunch of neat things inside of it that can flare up people's pain. Not all of them have to be gluten related, which is what a lot of us have heard of, but wheat has other fun things inside of it that mess people up. But sometimes gluten, which is found in wheat, is a common thing we'll hear about that causes pain inside people or other symptoms. Anyone else? Feel like change? Dairy? Dairy messes you up? Are you an A-blooded person? You don't know? No? You just look like an awesome A-blood to me. But that's all right. So dairy, though, for you at least, creates issues. Does it create pain or just other types of symptoms?
No, just other symptoms.
Okay.
Gas and things like that.
Right. Okay. So cool. So even though it's not muscular type pain, gas, bloating, digestive issues are a common symptom related to dairy specifically. Cool. So we've got caffeine, dairy, wheat. How do we know if these are problematic for us? What's the best thing we could do in our own life if we have a symptom, whether it's pain, which is what we're talking about tonight, or some other symptom like fatigue or infertility or menopausal symptoms or night sweats? Or how do we know if a food's potentially triggering it for us?
Stop.
That's it. Stop it. Abstinence. Abstinence works 100% of the time in all situations. Can't get pregnant if you don't try. Can't have food reactions if you don't eat it, right? So, therefore, if we take them out of our diet and we look for symptomatic change, there's step number one. And that's why I like the forms so much. Because I have patients that come in all the time. When I review their assessment forms with them, they're like, I didn't even realize I was having headaches 5 nights a week until I took that food out of my life, and then you made me redo the form 90 days later, and everything's better. So an elimination diet is the gold standard for figuring out if a food triggers an inflammatory response inside someone, which in turn leads to a symptom. That symptom being either pain, or fatigue, or hormonal imbalance, or night sweats, or constipation, or whatever it might be. So that's step number one. If we think we have a bunch of symptoms, we don't think. We probably know if we have those symptoms or not. We have these symptoms. We do an assessment form to figure out where we rate. We pick a food, whether it's wheat or dairy or caffeine or avocados or whatever you think it might be that you think you get a reaction to. You take it out of your life. I recommend usually 30 days. And then after those 30 days, put that food back in your life. A lot of my patients, they find out what foods are probably most inflammatory to them on our first or second visit. And generally, I'll be kind of broad spectrum in nature with that. I'm a big fan of avoiding things like wheat or gluten-containing grains, dairy, because that coincides with a lot of wheat-related issues, soy, especially if they're a menstruating female, and corn, specifically if they have neurologic issues. So some patients will walk in and on day 1 or day 2, I'll say, let's get off of wheat, dairy, corn, soy. Let's do that for 30 days while I'm doing all my other stuff with you. And at the end of those 30 days, we'll have a trip to Olive Garden, and you can go do whatever you want because you're going to get exposed to all of those foods at Olive Garden. And then on day 31, 32, and 33, if you feel really, really bad, there's a good chance that one of those foods is probably messing with you. So we get to investigate a little bit more. Yes, ma'am?
What do you mean by the connection between corn and neurological issues?
So, corn seems to jack people up really bad in their nervous system. So if someone has epilepsy, seizures, or MS, or Parkinson's, or some type of degenerative neurologic condition, I will usually ask them to get rid of corn.
Okay.
It's not everybody. Sometimes people walk in and they're just menopausal and I'll get them off of corn also. But corn, if someone walks in and says, I've just got X, Y, or Z neurologic condition, corn gets pulled out of their life from day 1 until we can prove to me that corn is not a problem with them. It's very genetically modified and it's very adulterated in its current state. It messes with
Can you
people's
have
brains.
organic corn or no?
For the first 30 days, I take out everything that resembles corn in any stretch of the imagination. And then eventually at some point we may add different variations of corn back in, but usually not for a while. There are other tests that you could do, just in case anyone's wondering, in case the 30-day elimination diet seems scary. There are blood tests that can be used to determine if certain foods might be more reactive inside certain individuals. They're just not a perfect test. There's no perfect blood test or stool sample or something that I could give someone to give me 100% surety that says this food is a problem. I have some people that come back and are testing perfectly fine to those blood tests. They get off of the food and they still get better. They put the food back in their life and they get worse, even though the blood test tells them that food's not a problem. So it's not a perfect science when using those types of tests, even though we still use them at sometimes, especially with kids. If you're under the age of 18, you don't make your own decisions in your own dietary habits. I'll get a blood test a lot of times just so I can show mom and grandma and everybody else that's involved that this kid needs to be eating a certain way. because a lot of times they go see grandma for the holidays and they slip them cookies and ice creams and whatever, and the kids having flare up in reactions because grandma says, well, I raised your mom on this, it's perfectly fine. But that's not always the case in that situation. So elimination diet is the best. Sometimes we do blood testing. So food elimination works wonders for pain relief, regardless of where it's coming from. When I have patients that come in with car wreck injuries, and because I'm a chiropractor, I see car wreck type things. When they come in, even though the car wreck caused their pain, it can help me get them to where they want to be faster if I have them change their diet. Because let's pretend this person had a wheat problem before the car wreck. They go get slammed at 30 miles an hour, and now they have all this inflammation and their muscles aren't working and everything's more inflamed in their body, and they're eating wheat 3 to 6 times per day like the average American, making their inflammatory markers worse in their body. Well, now if I take wheat out, their inflammatory markers related to diet now have a chance to go down. While I'm doing all my chiropractic stuff to get that to go down also, they will have a faster improvement, even though it was a car wreck-induced problem, than someone who comes in off the street that has fibromyalgia. So fibromyalgia type people still need to change their diet, but that's probably the cause, unlike the car wreck person whose cause was traumatic injury aggravated by foods that are inflammatory as well. So we talked about gluten, dairy, corn, and soy. Those are my 4 most common foods that I ask people to get off of. Certain conditions, if they come in, I'll add to that list. So if you have an autoimmune condition, specifically rheumatoid arthritis, we have joint problems in your hands and your toes and your feet, things like that, I'll ask patients to remove sololines or nightshades from their diet. Nightshades would be tomatoes, potatoes, green peppers, bell peppers, eggplants, those types of things. They have a chemical compound in them called sololines, and sololines tend to aggravate people that have autoimmune conditions. So if someone in this room has an autoimmune condition, guess what you should do tomorrow? Get off of gluten, dairy, corn, soy, and tomatoes, and do that for 30 days. And then watch what happens. Your pain should go down. If it doesn't, well then we need to find out why it's not or what else might be going on that's contributing to your symptoms. But if it does, it's one of those 5 foods that's causing your symptoms. Yes, ma'am?
Eczema.
Eczema is a skin issue. A lot of times I think gluten and dairy to begin with. And that's why those 2 foods almost always make the top of the list. And then things like tomatoes or soy or things like that may or may not be added in depending on who I'm talking to. But definitely eczema is a digestive issue, usually, that gets flared up through inflammatory foods. As with psoriasis, but with psoriasis I add corn.
What was,
yes, ma'am.
You call the category of those
Nightshades.
nightshades, but.
Sololine.
So, how do you spell sololine?
I don't know.
Okay.
Solanine, S-O-L-A-N-I-N-E maybe? I don't know. I have cheat sheets in my office and I just look on the wall and say, get off of these. That's the chemical that's inside of them. It's the nightshade class of foods which contain the chemical sololine. Sololine toxicity increases pain inside people.
Shades are mushroom and onions also nightshades.
No. No.
The first time I heard this word sololine.
The first time you've ever heard the word sololine?
Yeah. And which all have got sololine? Tomatoes,
Tomatoes, potatoes, green peppers, bell peppers, eggplants, goji berries or wolfberries. But tomatoes and potatoes are your biggest offenders usually. I'm sorry?
Blueberries not that?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think goji berries are the only. Tobacco is a nightshade actually, as is ashwagandha if you've used that herb before. But just because they're in the nightshade class doesn't mean that they're going to kill you. Tomatoes, green peppers, eggplants, potatoes are like the top 4, with tomatoes being the highest.
Where does nightshade come from? What is that?
When the white coat guys put their botanical expertise to play, they call this class of foods nightshades. So they're all part of the same genus species, even though they look different.
Okay.
But they're called nightshade. Nightshades. Nightshades. We're going into an area that I don't quite know enough about, other than people should get off them if they have autoimmune conditions.
We need to let Chase move on because I don't want you to miss what we're going to do now.
The only other thing I would add to that list is if you have fibromyalgia, you should probably get off of diet or artificial sweetener things. So those are real common pain creating things. Cool. So just off of knowledge of saying, let's do some assessment forms, let's get off some things and try it on our own. The absolute best way that I think I can help anybody though is to start poking and prodding on them. So does anybody have pain in here? Can I borrow you?
Sure.
All right. So come on up. Where is your pain?
Lower back and neck.
Low back and neck pain. Perfect. So in low back neck pain issues, that's all right. It just works well for my demonstration. Let's have you lay on your back with your head that way, your feet this way. So prior to ever doing anything on anybody, I want to try and figure out what's causing the problem. How long have you had neck pain?
6 months now.
6 months. What'd you do to hurt it?
I'm not too sure. That's some bulging discs.
Okay. Bulging disc, neck pain, 6 months. How about your low back?
Same.
Same thing. Any numbness or tingling down your body?
Yes. Both legs.
Both legs are numb and tingling. That's a problem. You don't ever want numb and tingling anything in your body because that means a lot of neurologic involvement is starting to happen. Is it getting changes in bowel bladder function?
Yes.
Okay.
And my arms too. When I breathe, exhale, hurt.
Sweet. All right, so we'll just see what we can find. To try and assess what might be working from this particular individual, we can do a couple of different things. Because we're on the topic of food, I'm going to do some just basic jabbing on her and see what hurts and what doesn't. And then we'll see if something food related makes it worse or makes it better. We'll go there to begin with. So if I poke on your ribs like this, any pain or discomfort?
No.
No pain or discomfort with it.
Okay.
So here?
Yes.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, when I jab on this
10.
spot, that's a
10.
painful spot. If I come on these ribs here, no pain, no discomfort.
No.
Okay? If I come under your ribs here,
Yes.
on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst,
10.
10. If I come this way,
Yes.
on a scale of 1 to 10, 10. Anything when I jab on your belly like this?
No.
No. You still have a female cycle?
No.
No. You have hot flashes, night sweats, anything like that?
Sometimes at night.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweats.
I'm going to jab on the outsides of your
Yeah.
breast. Any pain or discomfort when I do this?
No.
Okay. So no breast tenderness. Some pain under the ribs here, some pain under the ribs here, pain on this ridge of her ribs, no pain on these ribs here. If I jab on your face like this, any pain or discomfort?
No.
And here.
No.
All right, good. So far, 10, 10, 10, 0, 0, 0, 0. Right? That's where we're at with jabbing on her. So let's see if I can make it worse. Or better. Either one. Worse or better, right? We'll try this one, see what happens. Open your mouth really wide. And pour a little bit of stuff in your mouth. Doesn't taste like a Snickers bar. Good. Just kind of taste it for a while. Let's see, I 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. Is this same, better, or worse?
Same.
Okay, still a 10. What about this side? Those a 0. Any pain or discomfort there?
Yeah, no.
Okay, if I come under here,
Yes.
still a 10. And under here,
No.
better.
Better.
Okay, if I jab on your chest,
Fine.
no problems. If I jab on your face,
Fine.
no problems there. So that made one of these things get better. You can go and swallow that.
Okay.
It's going to be gross tasting.
And
I
then
know.
that.
We're going to stick something else in your mouth. This one doesn't taste much better.
She's a good sport. Thank you, Barbie.
I didn't want to do what I was going to do till today. Just said it. With that in your mouth, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, what would you call this?
I have an 8.
Okay, so a little bit better.
Yeah, a little.
On this side over here,
Better.
so no problems over there. So if I come under here,
Ah, yeah.
bad again, and under here,
Let's see what's better.
okay. Jab on your face. Alright, so we didn't really get anything to go super better, but we didn't get anything super worse either. Don't swallow that. We're going to keep playing around here.
I'm so glad I didn't eat.
This one's going to taste disgusting. I just
Oh, really?
those were good compared to this one.
As she goes up
Pretty
on the
awesome.
table.
I know, it's really gross stuff. But I do this a lot on my patients. People come in and I want to know what's going on. So I'll throw stuff in their mouth and see what works and what doesn't to try and get an idea as to what I think I can do to help them out. We're just evaluating things from a nutritional standpoint right now. Any pain or discomfort here?
Yeah.
Same? This side?
No.
Okay, and under here? I just realized I don't have a trash can.
Yeah.
That one hurts? This side?
No.
We'll do that again?
Yeah.
Okay, just sure I'm not jacking her. No problems? All right, no problem. So we've gone through, thank you, I appreciate that. Let's set that out for me.
Great.
We checked a bunch of nutritional type things, and her pain basically stayed the same the whole time. Is her issue primarily a nutritional thing, based off of what we've seen so far?
No.
Probably not. I didn't make anything better, I didn't make anything worse, it just kind of all stayed the same for the most part. So she's probably going to benefit from something else that I haven't talked with y'all about. So she's a terrible example for right now. We'll bring you back up in a second. I need somebody else. Come on, don't be shy. Anybody else? It's going to be gross tasting, but it's fun.
I promise you, it does not taste that bad.
It's not.
I just had sushi
Doesn't.
second. I don't even like poking on my
No, it's
Anybody else want to come up? Get popcorn?
go Denise.
Don't be shy.
Okay.
All right, come to it. It's not going to be a problem.
Only if you're afraid you want to say
I know, it's a little bit weird getting jabbed on in front of everybody, but that's fine. How are you? You're doing great, thanks. Go and lay down for me. I'll poke and prod some. Any pain or issues that I should be aware of?
Yes,
Where?
lower back
Lower back?
and left neck.
Lower back and
Neck and
left neck
shoulder.
and shoulder. Okay. So, I didn't do this on her because I was expecting that I'd be able to find something really quick, even though I didn't. I'm going to try something a little bit different on you, then we'll bring her up in just a second. I'm going to check a couple of muscles as well. Bring your knee toward your chest. That seems strong. Bring your knee toward your chest. Okay, good. Hold that right there, and don't let me spin your leg. Good, that one seems okay. Drop your leg. Hold right there, don't let me spin your leg. Good. Leg straight, press up to the sky. Good. This leg straight, press up to the sky. All right, good. So those all seem to work okay. Let's check your arm just to make sure there's nothing here. Push that way for me. Good. And this arm push towards me. All right, good. So we've got a bunch of strong muscles, and then we're going to jab on your belly and see what happens. Because in a second, when I stick stuff in your mouth, I want to see if those muscles remain strong or if they get weak. If I jab on you here, pain or discomfort?
No.
No pain, no discomfort. And here?
No.
No pain, discomfort. If I come under your ribs?
No.
Good. And here? Good.
No.
No problems there. If I jab on your face?
No.
Good. Do you ever get breast tenderness?
No. Yes.
Sometimes? Are they tender right now?
No.
No problems. Okay. So basically no pain whenever I jab on her. We're going to see what happens when I stick stuff in the mouth again.
It's not that bad. It's
It's
not.
Over the other way. There we go. You can taste it? Hold that right there. Bring your knee toward your chest. Hold again. Okay. Bring this knee to your chest. Hold there, don't let me spin it. Hold there, don't let me spin it. What are y'all noticing? Yeah. Everything started off except that one leg. Bend your knee for me. A jab here. Same, better, worse?
Worse.
Worse here?
Yeah.
Worse? I come under here.
Not too bad, but it was, yes.
Worse? Worse? Push that way. Weak. Push this way. That one's okay. A jab here. No pain. Except a jab here. Alright. No pain, no pain. Everything here worse. Weakness in the muscles. And she complains of pain in her low back and neck. Is there a potential?
Actually, when you touch this side, it was painful. This side, then this.
The breast tenderness and the stuff? Okay, so breast, we saw an increase in symptoms when we put something in her mouth. Is there a more likely chance that food is her cause than there was in this situation before? Most likely, because we put the same things in her mouth, the powdery stuff, that was dairy, it was powdered milk is what I just stuck in her mouth. Powdered milk in her mouth, the most expensive powdered milk I could find to make it legit and honest. Not like the dollar store stuff. It was like legit powdered milk, just in case there were other cross-contaminants. And for her, we put a little bit of milk in her mouth, and things started changing. Pain became worse, weaknesses started happening. So if she consumes milk, what does her nervous system do to her? It compensates. It shuts things off, and it makes pain thresholds more likely to fire. from that standpoint of me doing a physical evaluation and exam on her, I would start thinking in my mind that she probably shouldn't use dairy for at least the next 30 days, possibly longer than that. But until her back starts squaring away and her neck starts getting better, dairy could be an offender causing her inflammation to go up, making her symptoms worse, based off of our physical exam that we just did. I don't know your name, I'm sorry.
Barbie.
Barbie's pain probably is not as food related as Rose's pain. Because when we did dairy in her mouth and wheat in her mouth, nothing got better. Then when I tried fixing her pain that was present with a couple of other things like liver and gallbladder herbs or things like that, it didn't make it better either. She's probably having referred pain from other parts of her body that are not so food related. But I wouldn't know that unless I had a chance to poke on her. She could figure that out, and you could figure that out through an assessment form of figuring out where you stand pain-wise, and then getting off the food, and then 30 days later, Barbie would say, I feel the same. Still getting numb and tingly, still having back issues, still having whatever. And Rose would probably say, I'm feeling better. Probably. That's how we can start using our bodies to figure out what's going on as well. Now, is this long-term, indefinite? Probably not. She's probably swallowed that enough and had her body a chance, given her body a chance to overcome the small amount of dairy I gave her, push your knee to your chest. And so she's back to being as strong as she was before. So I'm doing a neurologic assessment. She's not having an anaphylaxis reaction where she's dying because of the dairy I put in her mouth. She's having a neurologic response that says, when this is on my mouth, I don't really like it. And I'm going to tell you as best I can through the symptoms that I'm able to generate in my body. Here's some weakness. Here's some increase in pain. Here's some brain fog if she was eating dairy smoothies or something. I mean, who knows? But her body's going to give her some type of symptom to warn her that says, please don't do this again, because I can't tell you in any other way other than flashing check engine lights on my body, which would be weakness, pain, things like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Thanks for being a good guinea pig, Rose. I appreciate that. I get off of dairy if I were you. Probably some other foods, but it's a good starting point.
Then I need to connect the mind with the body because I love milk.
I know, everybody is, and that's what I always tell me. Everybody that walks in says, well, wait a second. If I do a 24-hour food log of the foods you just asked me to avoid, which are gluten, dairy, corn, and soy, that's everything I've put in my body for the last 24 hours, probably the last 40 years. Everything I put in my body has been those things. And that's fine. I'm not saying these things were put on the earth by God to kill us. I'm saying if our body is inflamed and causing a reaction, then we just need to avoid them. And some people need to avoid them indefinitely. Some people don't. I've got a girl that comes in to see me. She's epileptic, and she's like 16, 17 years old. And since the age of 8, she's had a lot of seizures every day. When she walked in to see me, she was having 8 to 12 seizures a day, full on the floor, grand mal seizures. She walked in with 2 bags full of supplements and multiple medications of anti-seizure stuff. And she says, I'm here to see you. You're the guy that's supposed to fix me. You're doctor number 17 on my list. Here's a 3-ring binder this thick with every test I've ever had in my life. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to tell you to do. Get off of gluten and dairy. She's like, I'm already off of gluten and dairy. Take some supplements. Oh, you're already on all the supplements I would have given you. I have no idea what to do this lady. But someone has said a long time ago, get off of corn if you ever have neurologic issues. So I said, until the next time I see you, get off of corn. Let's see what happens. She gets off of corn, comes back in 2 weeks later, and had no seizures. I was like, man, that's crazy. I didn't even know that would happen. It's like first ever time I've told somebody off of corn.
You good.
You know?
So good.
So she comes in, she's like, man, I was off of corn. This is awesome. I was like, great, we'll stay off of corn. This is what we're going to do. I took her off of some of the supplements. She went back to her neurologist, started giving